Hello, wild ones, friends, and the curious. We're here for the 29-week pregnancy checkup. It's a wild pregnancy. There are no clinics or doctor visits involved. Nothing has gone wrong yet. Very uneventful, and I'm so happy about that. And let's take a look at some of the things that we would be doing at the clinic if we were going there, and so we can understand what we're not missing and understand what we can do for ourselves, which is as far as diagnostic activities go, we can do pretty much all of it for ourselves. So if you were going to a clinic, what they would be doing right about now is doing, you'd go in for a visit somewhere around 29 weeks. I'm at a lot of places. And they would test for, they would test your weight, which may or may not be helpful. Really, how your clothes fit is going to tell you plenty. Blood pressure, which you can take at the grocery store, which I have done. And again, mine remains in the lower 90s over upper 50s range. So we're good there. They'll test your urine for protein and sugar because these things can indicate diabetic responses to the pregnancy. And they check, fetal growth and heart rate. So they might do, just depends on how many ultrasounds your physician's office does or your clinic does. When, as I may have mentioned before, ultrasounds have their own risks involved, and we really don't, we haven't been doing them for that long in the grand scope of treating pregnancy as medical, even though we've been treating pregnancy as medical for about 100 years, a little less. At this point in the West, we have not been doing ultrasounds routinely until about the 80s. That's just about when they started. So we have a canary in the coal mine situation for our fetuses and for ourselves, especially for the fetus. And studies on mice have revealed that there's problems with neuromigration in the brain in mice who are ultrasounded, and fetus mice. I think it was mice fetuses actually, that were, or I don't recall if it was like an adult mouse or the fetuses who were subjected to the ultrasound. I think it was fetuses because it was about. You can find this study pretty easily if you just look up mice and ultrasound, but. There are a bunch of things, neuronal migration, also cavitation in the tissues, so little tiny blisters from heat can form inside, like interstitial, like within the skin and underlying tissues. And there are other things. But anyway, at this time, the 29-week checkup, there's a some places will do that ultrasound, especially if you request it. I would personally say it's not recommended at any point unless you have something really serious going on that you'd like to terminate for. Because unless you're going to terminate, it doesn't really matter what you see in an ultrasound. It's not going to change the outcome or the course. And really, it creates a lot of worry and stress that's bad for the baby that the mom can have. And 9 times out of 10, what a woman's told from an ultrasound, hey, we think we could see this. It could be a problem. It could be a big problem. We're going to keep an eye on it. The woman worries and worries about her baby, and in the end, it's fine. This happens a lot also with growth, what are supposed to be growth scans. Like physicians will scan and then say, oh, you have this huge baby. We have to do a C-section. It's like 12 pounds. Then they do a C-section, the baby's like 8 or 9 pounds. It's like, just totally normal. I've had an 8-pound baby, and it was doable. I didn't feel like I wish I'd had surgery or anything like that. So I've read so many of those stories, and they're just very detailed about women's experiences going to clinics and saying, I was given a directive basically to get the surgery because of my big baby, and then it wasn't even big and I felt cheated. So that's a really common thing to hear. So the 29-ish week appointment, they tend to check for, they check your urine for protein and sugar, they check fetal growth, position of the baby, and the fetal heart rate. So at this point, the position of the baby is getting closer to being more important, but at 29 weeks, you're not locked in. So if the baby's not upside down, head down, it's not a big deal yet. It's okay. There's plenty of time to turn. And I mentioned a kind of a position to help the baby turn that you can use a little later if you find, like, by week 34 that you don't feel the baby's head down. Maybe you're checking internally and you don't feel a skull matter down around your cervix, or however, or your belly map, and you think the baby's feet down still. You can get up on the couch or something like a soft furniture. You can put your knees on there and then lean all the way down to the ground with your elbows and your forearms on the ground and your head. Like, you can kind of look your head up to stretch your back a bit and do some cat-cow. But if you give baby that room upside down to move, it's more likely to get in position, because it can't, it's pretty easy to get settled down into a position, and then it's kind of hard for the baby to get out. All it can really do is like wiggle. It's kind of hard to get purchase in there. Oh, thank you. All right, I just got lunch. Mac and cheese and a fake chicken patty. We eat fake chicken here. It's not real chicken. That was nice from the man. So it's kind of hard for baby to get purchased and wiggle around all the way upside down, and you can always help baby by getting your knees on the couch and your forearms on the ground, and just spend 5 minutes, spend as long as it feels comfortable. Read on your phone, just plop it on the ground in front of your face or whatever. That's good fake chicken tomato lettuce. Okay. So what I was going to say about how you can take care, really the only thing on this list that I'm seeing that is not either something we've already covered, how you can check for yourself. You can go get your weight and blood pressure taken at any grocery store or like big box store. Pretty much big franchises like that, anywhere at the pharmacy, you can go take your blood pressure. So that's covered. We're good. Fetal growth, you're not going to get, it's really hard to get an accurate reading on that, even if you get an ultrasound. The position, you can check yourself. The fetal heart rate, you can check yourself. You can get a fetoscope, and it takes a little practice. But if you know where the baby's back is, like if you feel the hiccups, and you kind of feel along the baby to see where the hiccups are popping out the strongest, that's usually going to be the back, or like the side that's really near the diaphragm or the back of the baby, somewhere in that area. And then you can take a heart rate from there. And fetoscopes are not particularly expensive, and you can use that to do fetal heart tones. I have never done fetal heart tones. I've just let it ride. As long as the baby's acting normal, moving normally, as long as my tummy is, like my belly is growing at the appropriate rate, I haven't worried about doing any kind of heart rate stuff. But you can, and you can do it for pretty cheap. Let me see what the cost is here on a fetoscope. Like, just a simple fetoscope, fetal stethoscope, $15.99 on some site that looks like it's like a super Christian site. Weird, but whatever, whatever. You can get a CVS stethoscope, so you can use stethoscope. I think people do use stethoscopes, but the fetoscope is made to be for this purpose, so it's probably better. And like, you can get, there's an eBay one for $15. You can always check the reviews on the ones you're looking at and see. And then there's like the really old school ones that just kind of look a lot like there's the one that have the earpieces that go in your ear and they look like a stethoscope, and they have the metal that curve around the neck, and then the tube, and then there are the ones that look kind of like, in the old school times, if like an old lady was in the back of a theater and they use their little ear horn to hear to the front. There's one that looks kind of like that. That's more just like the archaic version, but people still use it and it works just fine. If it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So you can get those cheap. And finally, if you want to know about whether or not you're having diabetic symptoms such as sugar or protein in the urine, what you want to look for is when you pee, if your urine smells really sweet, or it smells like maple syrup, that's something to look out for. So you can, at that point, go ahead and I've looked into bloods. I haven't looked into urine on this, but I think there are labs where you can send in your own samples if you want to do that yourself. Or, of course, you can pop into a clinic, catch a bunch of fucking hate because the physician can be like, well, why have you been coming in? But you can do that. Or you can find a way to send to a private lab. And I'll try to look up some more info on urines I've definitely looked up bloods, and you can send and get, as far as what I'm reading, you can send in your bloods and get a kit done. And I kind of wonder if you can't, like, how many of these vitamins or like deficiencies or issues you can test for using kits that you can actually bring home and do your own bloods, aside from blood sugar, which you can get a blood sugar kit at any pharmacy and test it yourself at home, of course. But there's probably a lot more kinds of kits and tests you can use for various stuff you can order yourself. It's going to be, if you can hone in on what you think might be wrong, you're going to save yourself a lot of money over going to a clinic where they're just going to give you a battery of tests. Most of them are inaccurate or done in a context where it doesn't, the context of how the way the test was done, or at what point, or for whatever diagnostic reasons they've chosen, don't really make sense given the situation. So it's like you're going to be paying for a lot of money. Like you'll pay $50 for a dollar store pregnancy test. If the clinic does it, that's where they get them. And they're like Dollar Tree tests. So, little mac and cheese pro tip. If you've got some mac and cheese cravings or you just like it, I have found that the mac and cheese at Aldi, that's like 34 cents a box, is yummier to me than the Kraft stuff that is like 90 cents on sale. It's just like, I don't know, it's better. You should try it. If you're scared of trying the Aldi 34 cents a box mac and cheese, I would say don't be, because it's so good. I think it's my favorite. It's the cheapest. Anyway, now to know if there's protein in your urine. Protein increases the urine's acidic properties, so it will start to smell like ammonia. It's kind of funny though, because ammonia is basic. But anyway, so sometimes the diet can cause the ammonia smelling urine, and this odor will go away if you eliminate the foods that are triggering it in your diet. So, and people will say that sometimes if they have, going back to the sugar, if you have sugar in your urine, you have maple syrup smell, or it can smell fruity. So there's just some things to look for. And or sugar puffs. There are people talking about smells like sugar puff cereal. Let me just see what a protein test kit costs, just on whoever's selling it right quick here. Protein urine test kit. Oh, you can get a fancy analyzer for $130, or you can get multi-parameter urine test strip for urinary tract issues for $12.45 on the big evil online store. Or, I don't know, it says multiple panel, but I'm not sure what all it tests for. Let's see, do this search on protein here. Protein. Yeah, here's a few different test strip kits with 100 strips. Is for $20. It will test ketones, pH, blood, UTI, protein, ketosis, kidney infection. That's $20. So if you go to a physician, they run all those tests, you're looking at hundreds of dollars. You're gonna look at more than $20 in most cases, like on copay and or deductible costs alone. I've actually told people, one time I told a guy that a big part of the reason why I do wild pregnancy and give birth at home is to save money, because it's so expensive and crazy. And he goes, no, it's not because of that. You didn't do it because of that. I'm like, motherfucker, I just told you why I did something. Why would you tell me that I don't know what my reasons are? This is a guy who calls himself feminist, which he really should be calling himself an ally. Maybe he's corrected that by now, and he says he calls himself feminist ally. I don't know. I don't go around it much anymore. But at the same time, he would be condescending toward me and like tell me my women's business and what I do and don't know. And it's perfectly reasonable. I got the feeling he was seeing it as, that's selfish. You're not just thinking, I'm doing it all for my baby and what's safest for my baby. He was like, oh, you just want to save some money. That's so shallow of you. No, that's not what you did it for. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. There's no reason whatsoever that you should be ashamed of or pestered for wanting to have a baby at home and do your own prenatal care to save money. That's perfectly reasonable. Why wouldn't, and really, how would that not be for my baby? Because the more resources I keep for our family that we can use instead of paying them out to white coats, the more I can give my baby and the more I can give them the resources they need. So it's a perfectly good reason. Or just, heck, if you want to say, I'm just cheap, I don't want to spend all that money. Well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not being shallow, you're being smart. So with that said, that's a good overview for the 29 weeks. I'll put my bump photo on this video thumbnail. And I hope that you all, wherever you are in your pregnancy, or just your curiosity about the topic, are learning a lot in your self-education journey. And hope that I have been some help. And I will pop back in for a 32 week. See you soon. Bye bye.